In this screencast, we are writing an equation given 2 points on the line. So the steps say you're going to first use the slope formula to find the slope. So that's what we're going to do for problem 1. It says write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that contains your points 3, 3, and 5, 7. So first thing, I'm going to identify my x1, y1, x2, y2. So step 1, the little 1, says to find the slope. So we are going to do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So we are going to take 3 minus 7, which is -4, over 3 minus 5, which is -2, which is going to simplify to the number 2. So we did step 1. Step 1 was to find our slope. We found it. It is 2. So what I'm going to suggest is that we set up our answer. And remember, your answer is going to be in this format, y equals mx plus b. Well, right now, we already know our m. So I'm going to set that up. I'm going to have y equals, my m is 2. So we'll have 2x plus, now we need to find out what this missing y-intercept is. So that's what we're going to do next. So we found the slope. That was step 1. Step 2 says using y equals mx plus b, we're going to substitute in the slope and the x and y values from one of the points. You pick which one, and then we're going to find b. So I'm going to write down my y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to use my first point. So instead of a y, I'm going to plug in my y, which is 3. My m is 2, and my x is 3. And now we're solving for b. So we will multiply 2 times 3 together to get 6. So, we have 3 equals 6 plus b. Well, we want to get b by itself, so we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. When we do that, we end up with b equaling -3. B is that missing piece that we want to plug into our equation. So when we go to write that equation, make that a little smaller there, we will say, all right, y equals 2x plus -3. Now, you could also write this as y equals 2x minus 3, if you would prefer. And then you can always check. So let's say we plug in the second point to check. Well, we are going to replace our x with a 5. So 2 times 5 minus 3, we want to make sure that it equals 7. Well, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 3 equals 7. It checks out. So you can always check to make sure you're right by plugging in that other point. Let's take a look at number 2. So again, we're going to start by finding our slope. So we know our x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope says that we're going to take y1, which is 7 minus 0 over our x1, -4 minus 10. So that's going to give us 7 over -14, which will reduce to -1/2. And you are more than welcome to use your calculator if you want to do that to calculate your slope. So I know my slope is -1/2. So right away, I'm setting up my equation for my answer. Y equals -1/2 x plus, now I got to find this missing y-intercept. So I'm using my y equals mx plus b equation. We already know m is -1/2. I'm going to use my second point this time, and I'm going to fill in my point with my slope to figure out what is y. So instead of y, I'm plugging in my 0 because that's in the y spot. My m is -1/2 because that's our slope, and our x is 10 plus b. So -1/2 times 10 is going to end up giving us -5. So we end up with 0 equals -5 plus b. Well, to get b by itself, we're going to add 5 to both sides. Now that we know B, we are going to dump that into our answer to get y equals -1/2 x plus 5. Again, if you check it and take this other ordered pair, that -4, plug it in for x, check to make sure when you do that, you get an answer of 7. So if we check, we take -1/2 times -4 plus 5. Well, -1/2 times 4 becomes +2 plus 5, which equals 7, which is exactly what we got as the y value. So you can check to make sure it works out. So example 3 is doing the same thing, but now we're given a table. So you are going to pick your ordered pairs. So let's pick the first one. So that's 1, 3. And then the second one is 4, -9. So we are going to find our slopes. Remember, it's x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope is going to be 3 minus -9 because it's y1 minus y2. And then 1 minus 4. So 3 minus -9 becomes actually +12. 1 minus 4 is -3. And if we simplify, we get -4. So again, first step in this whole process is to find the slope. So if the slope is not given to you, you need to find that first. So I'm going to set up my answer, y equals -4x plus our missing y-intercept. So you know your slope, we just found it. So using our slope, -4, and that first point, we're going to plug them into y equals mx plus b to solve. So instead of a y, I'm going to plug in my 3 because that's in the y spot. My m is -4, my x is 1, and I have my plus b. So I bring down my 3, my equals, -4 and 1 make -4 plus b. I'll add 4 to both sides to get b by itself, and I end up with b equals 7. So that's the number I'm going to put in to finish my equation. Again, to check it, if we take our 4 and plug that back in here, -4 and 4 plus 7, we want to make sure that that gives us -9. So if we check, -4 and 4 is -16. -16 plus 7 is -9. So that does work out. So you can always check your answer. So you should never get these problems wrong because you can check your answer to make sure it's right. So just to recap, you are using the slope formula to find the slope first, then replacing that with an ordered pair and then solving. Okay, so we have some, it says to try some on your own. So what I'm going to do is we are going to take a look at a couple of these together, and then you will finish the rest on your own. So we are going to take a look at number 1, number 3, and number 4. So you can do 5 and 2 on your own. So problem 1, again, starting with slope, I know my x1, y1, and over here I got my x2, y2. So to find my slope, I'm taking my y's, so 0 minus 8 over 4 minus 6. So that gives me -8 on the top, -2 on the bottom, which would reduce to a +4. So right away, I know y equals 4x plus my missing y-intercept. So now that we know our m, I'm going to use this point. Anytime there's a 0 in the point, that's the one you should probably use because it's so much easier to plug in. But you could do either, it doesn't matter. So my y is 0, my m is 4, my x is 4, and I need to find my b. Let me move this over here a little bit. So if we go to solve, 4 and 4 make 16. So we have 0 equals 16 plus b. So we'll subtract 16 from both sides. So negative 16 will be our B value. So over here in our equation, we can plug in our negative 16. And then again, you can always check by plugging in your other ordered pair. So if we take our 6 and we plug it in here for our X, 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 16 will give you your 8. So you can always check to make sure you're right. So number 2, you're going to do on your own. But let's take a look at number 3. So again, we have X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So if we do our slope, we're going to take 4 minus negative 2, 3 minus negative 1. So 4 minus a negative 2 becomes a positive 6. 3 minus a negative 1 becomes a 4. And 6 divided by 4 would be 3 over 2. So I know my equation is y equals 3 over 2x plus something. All right, so using one of our points and our slope, I'm going to use this point here, 3/4, and our slope. I'm going to replace my y with a 4, my slope 3 over 2, and my x with a 3 plus b. So I get 4 equals, this is going to be 9 over 2 plus b. And then we want to get b by itself. So at this point, if you wanted to use your calculator, you could. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So that is a nice decimal. So if we make that 4.5 plus b, we subtract 4.5 from both sides. We end up with negative 0.5 is our b, or negative a half. So if you wanted to leave it as a fraction, you could, or you could convert it to a decimal. It doesn't matter because it's the y-intercept. It's not the slope. So to finish, we'll have y equals 3 over 2x plus negative a half, or you could say negative 0.5. And again, you can check your answer. If you take 3 divided by 2, 3/2, times our other x, negative 1, and then we add it to negative half, we will get negative 2. So you can always check your answer. All right, to finish for the last one, number 4, we have our 2 ordered pairs. I'm just going to pick the first 2. So 6, 6 and negative 2, negative 2. And we want to find our slope. So we're going to do y minus y. So 6 minus negative 2 over 6 minus negative 2. So this ends up being 8 divided by 8, which is going to be the number 1. So finding our slope, now that we know the slope, we can set up the beginning of our equation, y equals 1x plus, and then our missing piece. I'm going to use this first ordered pair. So instead of y equals mx plus b, I'm doing 6 equals our slope 1 times 6 plus b. 6 equals 6 plus b. If we bring the 6's over, we end up with a 0. So we could write it as y equals 1x plus 0, or you could drop that all together and just leave it as y equals 1x. So this is a step up from what we did on the notes with a point and a slope. So now you have to find the slope and then plug it all back in. So what you need to do is you need to finish problem 2 and problem 5.